Disclaimer, this video was edited before the first overall pick trade. It was too hard to go back and change things, so this video is as if the Celtics still had the pick. However, the order of players would remain the same even with this trade. Sixers would get Fultz and Celtics would get Jackson, if we included the first overall pick trade.
Ah, the NBA draft. Nice to see some familiar faces at the top of the draft with the exact same top 3 as last year, only in a different order. Actually, you know what? That's not a good thing. I want parity with draft picks too, not just titles. Anyway, the same 3 teams. The Sixers picking 3rd.
Wrong.
Courtesy of Vlade Divac falling in love with 2 second-round picks that are probably staying in Europe and are pretty much clones of himself. The Lakers 2nd, like last year. And the Nets. One of the worst teams the NBA has ever seen. You know the Nets when you see them. Their jerseys are dull, boring, black and white, and the only player on that team that might literally be able to play on a regular NBA team is Brook Lopez, other than Bojan Bogdanovic, who's gone now. I literally could not name another player on the Nets off the top of my head because they're so relevant. Actually, maybe Trevor Booker because he went to Clemson, and Linsanity, but he's 5 years late. And that's it. Oh wait, I almost forgot. But not actually. They have the right to swap picks with Boston because of that whole fiasco 4 summers ago. Same thing happened last year. Same thing will happen again next year. The Nets won't have a chance to get any better than 20-62 until 2019, while the Celtics could have a future dynasty on their hands. Build a statue of Billy King in front of the god in Celtics. He created your newest dynasty. So what's going on, guys? It's the Sports Talk Country here, back at it again with another draft preview. This time, we're looking at the NBA draft. I love all the Big 4 leagues, though out of all of them right now, the NBA is the least interesting. Actually, well, at the moment, we have nothing but non-stop regular season baseball until the NFL preseason, so the draft and free agency in the NBA will be far more entertaining. But I mean, the Warriors won the finals, yawn, didn't find out about that until 2 o'clock the day after it happened because it was pretty much a given. I was just waiting for the Warriors to confirm it. We all saw it coming. We've seen it crystal clear since the 4th of July last year when Kevin Durant started his next chapter. For the sake of the NBA, I've been rooting for the Cavs the past few finals, and I plan to do so with whatever team wins the Eastern Conference in the next 4 years, because they'll be heavy underdogs against the Warriors. Unless a new super team is created. I've heard about a LeBron to LA rumor next summer. Him, Lonzo, D'Angelo Russell, another top 3 pick next year would create a new dynasty in the Lakers, which would mean the Celtics and the Lakers would take control of the league, again, after this Warriors mess. Yawn, talk about a lack of parity since the league was created. Okay, enough rambling. This is about the draft, after all, not the finals and the landscape of the league, though they overlap. I hinted at some stuff in that little rambling, like Lonzo to LA, which you already know is finna happen because there's a consensus top 2 in this draft, but I would like to touch on these top 2 picks before we get into the stuff that isn't a given. So yeah, the Celtics are thanking Billy King right now for his incompetence and falling in love with past their prime versions of KG, Paul Pierce, and Jason Terry 4 summers ago. Love so strong that it was worth giving up 4 first-round picks. Who knew these 35-year-old men wouldn't lead Brooklyn to greatness? Seriously, now they're kind of screwed until 2019. But this pick belongs to the Celtics, not the Nets. Enough with them. So the Celtics seriously could be contenders soon. Isaiah Thomas and Al Horford is a good start. Obviously, they have one of the NBA's premier head coaches in Brad Stevens, and that's a big part of this. And top it all off with Gordon Hayward in this pick, and we have a team who could actually be first Eastern Conference champion in 7 years that doesn't have LeBron on its roster. Talk about a lack of... Okay, I'll stop now. Next year's likely first overall pick could be a fine piece in this championship roster, too. Jaylen Brown, last year's 3rd overall pick, however, doesn't look too promising right now. But this year's pick could be the best. First of all, it's the first. I mean, I see the Nets finishing last again next year and the Celtics getting it, but it isn't guaranteed. 90% chance, though, with the Nets roster. And second of all, it's a great draft. Best since 2003, which gave us LeBron, Carmelo, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade. And of course, Darko. So point guard Markelle Fultz is the consensus top prospect this year, and he's kind of low-key being considered the top player in the best draft since the LeBron James draft, which in a way means he could be the next LeBron James. But see, Fultz has kind of low-key earned that status, as I said. He sort of lets his game do the talking. He just doesn't seem as popular as Lonzo. He's a generational shooter, and while his numbers aren't good as some top prospects in past years, he certainly passes the eye test. Seems like a can't-miss pick for the Celtics, only problem being that they already have a pretty good point guard in Isaiah Thomas. Will the Celtics trade Fultz, Thomas, or this pick before they draft Fultz? Maybe. But most likely, they'll just play one of Fultz or Thomas at the 2. Definitely Fultz, actually, since IT's only 5'9". Brad Stevens probably won't be too fond of that idea as a 6'4" natural point guard playing shooting guard in a league where taller wing players are becoming more common. But Markelle, Fultz, and IT will work well together. 2 pass-first guards with generational shooting ability. They'll be fun to watch together, and they'll also make their teammates better. Plus, Markelle has another thing in common with LeBron, other than being the top player in a generational draft. They both have uncommon first names. Fultz is the first Markelle I've ever heard of, at least spelled that way. That way, if Fultz becomes a generational player, people can refer to him as just Markelle, and without a doubt, other people will know who you're talking about, just like with LeBron. However, we have a second generational potential player in this draft, who also has an uncommon first name, but he's been a lot more popular than our first overall pick. Even today, even before draft day, even months before draft day, you may have seen kids just casually playing basketball. One of them pivots, takes a step back to attempt to shoot a 3, and yells, "Lonzo!" That used to be a thing with Kobe, to such an extent that it became a meme. But even before Lonzo Ball's been drafted, it's become a thing with him. Lonzo Ball's been one of the most hyped draft prospects of this generation, and a lot of that has to do with his father, LeVar Ball. Just as Kobe became a meme, LeVar Ball became a punchline. I could go on for a while about the various cocky things LeVar Ball said, or the user-created jokes that have emerged from that. We have a whole mock draft to get through. To keep it simple, some people think LeVar Ball could have ruined his son's reputation to such an extent, and yes, the apostrophe comes after the S there, because Lonzo has 2 brothers that should be top NBA prospects in a few years, because of how he stated that he would beat Michael Jordan one-on-one in his prime, what he's done with that billion-dollar shoe brand, and just his general cockiness. Some say it'll haunt Lonzo throughout his career and just ruin his reputation. Some just like to speculate that it'll bust because of how hyped a prospect Lonzo is. Lonzo does have a bandwagon following already with those kids on the basketball court, and I myself admit to hopping on the UCLA bandwagon this March. But you already know how easily Lonzo will be marketed in the NBA. He's for sure headed to Los Angeles, the second largest market in the US and the Ball's home turf. Okay, as for the Lakers, keeping it short here. The rebuild will continue after this season, but since I'm not too big a fan of D'Angelo Russell, I think Lonzo will be the biggest piece of this rebuild, and if he pans out, a superstar totally capable of anchoring a championship team. I see him as the next Chris Paul, and that might just be his floor. One major roadblock with this pick, however, is that the Lakers don't think Lonzo to LA is a done deal yet. Maybe his destiny, but administration isn't sure if it's theirs. But Lonzo to LA is the general consensus with this pick. Anyway, those last 2 picks, or first 2 picks, were practically just givens at the top of the draft. Now on to what is more of a mock draft, where my opinion may be different from some other people's. Cutting this video in half so non-lottery picks and lottery picks will be separated as I did with the NHL draft. On to the Sixers. I might be in the minority here, but I've always trusted the process. I think it's a great idea, it's just that many of those initial first-round picks didn't pan out. But Joel Embiid looks like a stud, and Ben Simmons looks pretty good too. So Simmons is your prototypical forward. He can play the 3 and the 4. Not even sure which one he plays more, because in today's league of so-called positionless basketball, where it's less about the same players guarding each other, and traditional positional boundaries are being shifted. I mean, look at Giannis, 6'11" dude playing point guard every night. Simmons is still a special talent who can really play either position. The Sixers have been drafting big men a lot through the process, so how about a winger? Josh Jackson out of Kansas? He seems to be the favorite at this slot, though maybe not the consensus pick. Jackson is a special, all-star potential, all-around talent. Your average one-and-done prospect after being the top high school prospect this time last year. Obviously, he could play the 2 or the 3 as a winger. I think the Sixers slot him in at shooting guard so Ben Simmons can play small forward. Also, another thing about this pick, which I hinted at earlier, Sixers got this from the Kings after the Nick-Stauskas trade that sent Stauskas, a couple other rotation players, 2019 first, and the ability to swap picks this year to Philadelphia for 2 seconds that probably won't even sign in the NBA. The Sixers and Kings swapping of picks is only between 3 and 5, which in a generational draft isn't that bad. I mean, future superstars and Carmelo and D. Wade came out of these exact slots in 2003, the last comparable draft in talent to this year. But let's hope that neither team regrets that swapping, because not everyone here will pan out, but everyone in the top 10 has the potential to pan into an all-star. So the Suns have been perennial bad for a while now, though they seem to have a sunny future. Okay, no one's laughing at that one. A punny future. Okay, I'll show myself out. Anyway, Devin Booker looks like
a gorilla brush.
Like the next Kobe. That's his ceiling, at least. The jury's still out on Dragan Bender, last year's 4th overall pick, though he doesn't look awful, I guess. And while the Suns may have decent depth at point guard, Eric Bledsoe isn't too shabby. In fact, he's one of the most underrated players in the NBA. They have a whole lot of other capable guys there. The best player available here, in my opinion, is a point guard, though. De'Aaron Fox, the latest cream of John Calipari's crop at Kentucky. There are other capable players here, including forwards, who Phoenix may need more, but I like Fox overall as a prospect. His major flaw is shooting, which, out of a basketball player, you'd think this is a major problem, but the NBA isn't like 5-year-old rec soccer leagues where everyone just chases after the ball. His general fit into the Suns system and defensive versatility may be enough for the Suns to take him. Plus, they already have Devin Booker, a player whose hype train I'm definitely on. I think Booker is a generational scoring threat, as I've said, the next Kobe possibly. Anyway, Booker is already an amazing shooting threat, so getting someone like Fox who can dish him the ball easily and play much better defense will be great for both sides. I mean, Booker, Fox, and the Suns administration, that is. Just like how IT and Markelle will make each other better players in Boston because of their similar skill set, Booker and Fox will make each other strong because of their different skill set. Twin skill set, or best of both worlds. Both are killer combos. So this pick is kinda gonna be a joke, but it's okay, because the Kings are, as an organization, a joke. Don't get me started on the DeMarcus Cousins trade. They literally thought Buddy Hield was gonna be the next Steph Curry. But anyway, you know what they say. Vlade Divac only drafts clones of himself, or prototypical big men. Even though the Kings already have a great one in DeMarcus, never mind, you traded him away. Time to ignore every single first-round pick from the past few years of draft. You guessed it, another center, Zach Collins out of Gonzaga. It is, in fact, a huge reach, and they always have the 9th overall pick to take Collins with, too, so they're really pulling one out of the Bears' book, drafting a player earlier when they'll always be available later. It's sort of rude to the Kings, but let's face it, it may just happen. I predict the Kings will reach and draft a center because they do that all the time and have no sense of direction whatsoever. Are they tanking? Going all in for the playoffs? Just sitting there like the Buffalo Bills? Their excuse for this will be that they're just finding a replacement for Boogie. They should already have plenty of replacements for Boogie. I know this is rude and it sort of is a joke, but the Kings front office is so inept they give Jim Benning a run for his money. So the Magic are an up-and-coming team, sort of, I guess. I don't really know what this team's sense of direction is at this point. They're near playoff contention. Aaron Gordon and Evan Fournier are nice youngsters. Nikola Vucevic is only 26. But the Magic sure do need a magical, over-the-top piece that will plummet them into playoff contention. This should be the year, since it's supposed to be a generational player. New Magic GM John Hammond needs to nail on this pick. There's a player on the board who really reminds me of the future king of the NBA, once LeBron retires. And by that, I mean none other than the next Giannis. Jonathan Isaac, out of Florida State. And guess who drafted Giannis? None other than John Hammond. He's 6'11", primarily plays at the 3, creating a matchup nightmare just like Giannis. Shoots threes well and plays great defense. He can also play at the 4, though Aaron Gordon is the status quo there. If this is a perfect Giannis comparison, maybe Isaac isn't done growing yet. Who knows? He probably is, though. And plus, he's a homegrown Florida kid. The Bucks and Jaguars draft Florida kids all the time. Florida teams just have a thing for drafting Florida players. So next up are the Timberwolves, who I think in 5 years will see Karl-Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins blossom into a superstar tandem and overtake the Warriors as the class of the West. A lot of people have predicted this too, but it seems almost inevitable that Wiggins will transcend into a star. Cat already is one. Gear up for a Bucks T-Wolves showdown in the 2020 finals. Should be way more competitive than that joke of a finals this year. Anyway, the T-Wolves have a solid court forming, but they need just one more piece. A power forward ideally, since their depth there is pretty dreadful. This is the perfect draft to fill your biggest need, of course, because of how great this draft is projected to be by scouts. So how about filling that need with none other than the next Dirk Nowitzki, Lauri Markkanen. Markkanen is finished, so like the NHL draft, this draft is be lit. But also, I'm pretty sure that'll make him the highest drafted Finn in NBA draft history. I've liked watching Markkanen play at Arizona this year, as he led them to an outstanding season and a Pac-12 title in a year where the Pac-12 was very competitive, featuring the Lonzo Ball UCLA juggernaut and a Final Four team in Oregon. Markkanen is like a new era Dirk Nowitzki. I mean, people are comparing him to Dirk because they're both European big men with a thing for shooting, but Markkanen has all the offensive upside you'd want from a power forward today. He's mobile and can shoot well from the three-point range. Almost like Kristaps Porzingis to me. Doesn't seem like a guy you'd want to pass up on. Though if he's like Kristaps Porzingis, maybe he'll get booed by Minnesota fans when he's drafted. Well, don't you know? On second thought, Minnesotans have a reputation of being nice, and a lot of people of Scandinavian descent live there too. As a Scandinavian, he'd fit right in, and he'd also fit right into the Wolves system too. The Knicks, don't get me started on the Knicks. Kristaps Porzingis wants out, Carmelo Anthony wants out, Phil Jackson wants to get everyone to follow the triangle so badly that he probably thinks we can make a religion out of the triangle.
You can make a religion. No, don't.
But anyway, the status quo with Derrick Rose is an injury-prone former MVP who can't get back to his former glory. And I think that's always how it's going to be, no matter how hard the Knicks try. So they would be smart to draft a new guard, one that is maybe a little less injury-prone. Malik Monk would be a good choice. Great explosive scorer who could also emerge as an elite defender. I just don't know how well he fits the triangle. Heck, I don't even know what the triangle is. Okay, I do. It makes sense and was a key strategy used by the 90s Bulls, but at this point, it's just a punchline. So, Dirk Nowitzki is 38 and probably 39 by the time I upload this video. Yay. If the Mavericks don't replace him soon, they'll probably implode because they have no other high-end talent. Dirk isn't even high-end at this point in his career, but I'm not too high on a team whose best player is Harrison Barnes, making the playoffs. So time to replace him. Lauri Markkanen would have been perfect here as he's literally the next Dirk Nowitzki, but I mean, he's gone. Mavs might actually need him more, but they pick later and I don't see them trading up. Plus, I don't simulate trades here. Anyway, no need to pull a Ryan Pace because one of the more well-known, more easily marketable players has fallen to them. He also doubles as a player who could go in the top 5 if a team liked him that much, and a huge threat on both ends of the court. Jason Tatum out of Duke. Tatum pretty much only plays the 3, so he won't really replace Dirk Nowitzki, but he is the big name the Mavs will need to carry the team in the post-Dirk era. He or Harrison Barnes could play the 4, I guess, though they'd be a little on the short side there. Plus, he's the BPA. Nothing wrong with going with the BPA. This next team should do it more often. Now we're back to the Kings. This is actually the Pelicans pick, but the Kings got it from the DeMarcus Cousins trade, which was, of course, awful for the Kings. Buddy Hield is not the next Steph Curry. I liked watching him in college, seeing him win the Wooden at Oklahoma, but I just don't think he has what it takes to compete as a starter at the next level. And even him being a starter is a really optimistic projection. The rest of what is received in the trade are scraps who will probably be gone by the end of the summer. But every pick is a lottery ticket. It's wide open. It's an unknown. They could be drafting the next Kawhi Leonard and not even know it. They'll probably mess it up somehow, as in usual Kings fashion. However, I'm going to be nice to them with this pick and give them the BPA. Not the best center or Vlade Divac clone available, the best player available. In my opinion, that would be Dennis Smith, an athletic point guard out of NC State. Seems like he needs to improve his shooting, but that's pretty much the only hole in his game that could stop him from becoming a superstar. In his game, that is. The Kings will probably mess up his career or waste his prime, then wait too long to trade him just like they did with DeMarcus Cousins. I'm sorry, Kings fans, it's just what your organization does. I really don't think you deserve this suffering. It's just more realistic than the Kings actually making a pick that 100% works out for them. It's the truth. And Dennis Smith, sorry you're going to the basketball graveyard that is Sacramento, but at least you're not going to the Nets. That's a punishment I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. But there will be one unlucky player that does get drafted by the Nets in the first round. Just be glad it's not you. I have a soft spot for the Hornets since they play in Charlotte and I was born in nearby South Carolina, which is also where a lot of my family comes from, so I really love that whole Carolina region. That's also why I'm a Clemson fan, well also because my parents went there. But anyway, the Hornets have been walking mediocrity for a while, though through playoff appearances in some recent years, and Kemba Walker sorta being a star, they might be on the uptick. And it's a strong draft, so maybe even at 11 they'll be able to find a star to pair with Kemba. They'll be getting a top 10 talent at least, courtesy of the Kings reaching and taking a center. So as a potential shooting guard, how about Frank Ntilikina out of SIG Strasbourg in the LNB Pro A, the top league in France. ESPN just lists him as from France, but I think that's sort of rude in generalizing all of France. I mean, imagine if an American got drafted into a French-dominated league and when they listed the player came from, they just said America. I mean, I'm a proud American. Well, actually, I should say United Station, just so I don't trigger those ignorant Latin Americans out there who think the only acceptable use of the term America is when you're referring to the landmass of America. But many of us feel more associated with the region we come from in this great country than our country itself. So give that a little representation. Well, apparently it's unusual for a 14-year-old to be a proud American because during the pledge at my school, most people don't even bother to stand up. But I do. Living in a liberal haven known as Heavenston, I must be one of the few people at my school who still have faith in our country at this point. But anyway, didn't mean to turn this into a semi-political thing. The real problem here is that Ntilikina is only the second foreign-born player to be taken in this mock so far. Talk about a lack of national parity. Okay, I'm done. I won't say the P word anymore. But anyway, our French friend is another one of those pass-first point guards, and wow, this draft seems to have a lot of those. He's also a good leader and mainly struggles in the shooting department. So basically, a bootleg, low-budget Markelle Fultz. Well, just kidding about the low-budget part. Not like Billy Bean runs the Hornets or something. Everyone knows Jordan does. That's really the only thing most people know about the Hornets. Okay, here's the Pistons at 12. I'll try to keep this pick short and sweet. Try to guess this guy's position. Hint, half the players in this mock so far are also this position. Correct, he's a winger, though primarily a shooting guard. Not really your average modern winger, just a pure shooting guard. Luke Kennard out of Duke. His defense needs work, but he seems to have an excellent shooting ability and splendid basketball IQ. Though, what would you expect? He went to Duke. Of course he's smart. I actually thought at the beginning of the season that the Nuggets would be like the Colorado Avalanche of basketball. Well, I mean, I thought the Avs would be fringe playoff contenders in the NHL, and the Nuggets would be an utter and complete dumpster fire, finish last, and lose the lottery so they end up with the 4th overall pick. These were my preseason predictions. Well, the opposite happened. Funny how strikingly similar the real Avalanche ended up being compared to my predicted Nuggets team. But, you little nuggets, that's just something I call my brother, who doubles as my editor, a quote, little nugget. Be happy you didn't end up like I predicted you would. In fact, plenty of good happened. Out of nowhere, Nikola Jokic turned into a top 5 center in the NBA. Emmanuel Mudiay looks promising too. I think here they'll take OG Anunoby, a nice, athletic, two-way winger out of Indiana. He doesn't look like the modern type of winger, such as Jonathan Isaac, Giannis, or even guys like Jimmy Butler and Paul George to some extent. Just an OG winger. Get it? Anyone think that's funny? Alright, moving on. And finally, we've reached the scorching hot end of this video. Someone must have dropped my mixtape over here. Problem is, the Heat aren't very hot anymore. Duh, it's because of Wade and LeBron are gone, and Chris Bosh is leaving too. The Heat actually do have some promising pieces. Goran Dragic, okay, whatever, and Hassan Whiteside are a good start. Justice Winslow looks promising too. And plus, I mean, when the Slovenian guy came back this season, they got really hot and almost made the playoffs. They were scaring everyone in the Eastern Conference. But they do need more young pieces, so let's just throw another one in there. Ideally one who can replace Chris Bosh. How about Harry Giles, our third Blue Devil off the board? He primarily plays the 4, so he can slot in to replace Bosh. And that's going to be it for part 1 of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I had to cut this video into 2 parts because I didn't want it to be too long, since I know people have short attention spans. Check out part 2 right here. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe if I gave you a reason to. Peace, y'all.
Before you go away on to another video, I just want to let you know that we have decided not to do a second NBA draft preview, because we were already spending a lot of time on this, and the NHL draft previews. And plus, most of those non-lottery picks won't last very long in the NBA,